Hello and welcome to another episode of Short and Sweet TV. Today we're going to be looking at InDesign Creative Cloud and how InDesign Creative Cloud is different to the previous version of InDesign CS6. I often get asked by my students, should I upgrade to Creative Cloud from CS6? And there are some key features that are new in Creative Cloud that could sway you to upgrade to the latest version of Creative Cloud. So firstly, we'll look at how tables are a little different in Creative Cloud. We'll also look at Typekit briefly, how you can manage your typefaces in Creative Cloud. Also color groups with your Swatches panel, and very quickly we'll have a look at creating an e-publication. So starting off in InDesign Creative Cloud, we're going to scroll down to page 2 in this document, and as you can see, I've got a table here. If I come across, making sure I've got my type tool selected, because whenever we edit tables, we need to use our type tool. And I want to actually move this third column here and put it in between column 1 and 2. In order to do that in Creative Cloud, it's quite easy. I just hover over the top of this column, I get that arrow that appears, I select that column, and as you can see, it's now highlighted. And now if I click and drag, I can actually position it right in between these two first columns. And it's the same with rows. If I come over here to the left hand side, I can scroll down to Terrace Homes, select that row and drag it up to the very top. So it's as simple as that, moving around columns and rows with tables in Creative Cloud. Next, we'll briefly look at how type can be easily managed in Creative Cloud. If I come up to my type menu and go down to the Add Fonts from Typekit, and this launches my Typekit application, which comes with Creative Cloud, and it's from here that I can search for a font based on its classification. I can also come down and have a look at the different weights that are available in particular fonts under their classification, and if I see a font that I want to use, it's just a case of syncing it to my application, and that'll be available across all of my applications that are in Creative Cloud, so Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign. And the great thing is you don't even have to restart those applications in order to use your new fonts that you've downloaded. And you've got quite a few fonts available to you in the Adobe Typekit. All right, getting back into InDesign, we'll have a look at the Swatches panel, and just very quickly over here on the right, you can see that I've actually created what is now available in Creative Cloud in InDesign, and that's color groups. So you can actually group colors together exactly like you can do in Illustrator now. So if I wanted to create a new group, I can just come down and click on the little new color group icon. It then lists that there. I can double click on that to rename it. And then in order to add colors or swatches to that, it's just a case of clicking on the swatch and dragging it and dropping it into my groups. So if you're working with lots of color swatches, it just makes it a bit easier to manage your swatches panel. You can hide them or reveal them as you need. And finally, just with exporting from Creative Cloud, InDesign Creative Cloud, if you're creating e-publications, it now has the ability to export layouts so that they retain their integrity in terms of their positioning of images and also the text. Often with dynamic graphic layouts such as this one here, it used to be the case that when you exported to an EPUB to be viewed on an iPad or a Kindle, a lot of the, especially with dynamic layouts, a lot of the graphic elements would become quite jumbled and it would be quite random in terms of how it would lay it out. But with the fixed layout option, when you export, it retains the position of all of your graphics and text elements. Now this document that I'm working on isn't necessarily set up for an e-publication, but just to demonstrate how it does work, if I come up to File and then scroll down to my export options, and it's from here that I can choose the format that I'd like to export as, and I actually want the EPUB fixed layout in order to retain the same settings and layout that I've got in this publication, rather than reflowable, which reflowable does reorganize, and you can get some pretty unexpected results if you've got a dynamic layout, graphically dynamic layout such as this one. So I'll leave that set to fixed layout and choose the folder I'm going to save it into. Put put it into the final folder and save over the top of the previous version that I've got there. And it's from here we've got our EPUB settings. You can choose to have the first page as your front cover, or you can even add and upload a new image that you might have created in Photoshop to have as your front cover. I'll just jump down here, click OK, and it will generate that EPUB and also launch it in iBooks. And it's from here I can, as you can see, if I just quickly scroll through there, as you can see, it's retained the integrity of my original layout. So I hope you found these tips helpful in making a decision as to whether or not you're ready to move over to InDesign Creative Cloud. It's basically looking at easier tape management of your tables, looking at Typekit and managing your fonts a lot more easily, creating color groups with your swatches, and also if you're creating e-publications, having those graphically dynamic layouts retained by using the fixed layout option when you export in EPUB. Thanks for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you in another episode of Short and Sweet TV.